Testing. Testing. One. We're getting video, and we're getting what appears to be. Let's make sure we're getting chat feed on other platforms now. Let's see. TikTok. Fresh. Alive. Twitch is coming through. We're getting solid bit rate. Good. I am just trying to pull up the Steam chat. Stand by one moment. While we're waiting, how's everyone doing? I hope you had an amazing Thanksgiving if you celebrated, and otherwise, if not, I hope you enjoyed your Thursday and Friday. I think I finally got the Steam event to load. That was really weird. Got the chat to work. Okay, we're good. Sorry about that, everyone. Chat feed was frozen for a minute on Steam, and I just wanted to make sure it was working. Now we've got chat feed on all platforms. Welcome, one and all, to a kind of late night bonus stream. As Dungeon Alchemist is on sale right now for 20% off, we will be having a few extra bonus streams during that to kind of highlight the sale and to make myself available to our newer community members who may have questions, concerns, suggestions, feedback, as well as just, make myself available to anyone in our community who, has been a long-term community member or whatever. Remember, these streams, anytime we're live for the most part, is a great time to get live support from a actual staff member. So you have questions related to Dungeon Alchemist, concerns, feedback, you're trying to figure out how to build something, let me know, and I will do my best to guide you. This map here, I found it on the workshop just before we went live with the stream, and I was really impressed with the build. It's nothing too fancy, but I think what really stands out is it's just got like a lot of spirit. Love this little lumber yard here. Really just seems to be like well thought out in its design. Lots of different pieces of equipment in here stored, different planks and logs and stuff, so it adds to the the allure. I think it's interesting, to say the least. Then you have this lovely kind of diamond shaped shack here with the horse stables on the backside. Very cool. I think a map like this is relatively useful in, most any campaign because you have this lumber yard, right? Lumber yard could be placed somewhere, near a forest and near a city. Could be somewhere where there's a bit of intrigue. Maybe someone went missing near the, one of the employees, or, hey Kaiser, how you doing? We'll probably have all sorts of different faces in tonight that I don't normally interact with because this is a very late night stream for me. I was going to stream a couple hours ago, but my internet was acting up, so I couldn't get a steady enough connection to really guarantee a fun stream, so I decided to not at the time, How you doing, Kaiser? But, yeah, I'm excited to stream at this kind of late night interval, make myself available to community members across the pond and, who might be night owls or enjoying a late night evening. Layover in Korea? Well then, you are probably needing some entertainment. You probably tuned in at the right time then, huh? Oh, I'm sure with people, all the holiday travel in the US doesn't make things a lot easier. I'm sure it does impact worldwide travel to a degree. I think this is a great little build here. It's cool how they just use like freestanding walls to look like piles of logs. Really nice. More freestanding walls. Freestanding walls. Just like an assortment of treated lumber. And untreated lumber. Nice. Interesting. Honestly, I never thought I'd be so interested in a lumber mill. Hey, John, how you doing? By the way, we are multi-streaming on numerous platforms right now. We are live on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Steam simultaneously. So I'm monitoring all those chats right now, which it gets a little messy sometimes, but I am doing my best to pay attention to all of it. So just woke up. Nice. What time is it where you live? Because it's only about, it's like 2 a.m. here. It's rather late. Let's see here. Check this out. Looks neat. Oh, you know what? I've actually seen this map. Let's look at it again, though. But yeah, Kaiser, I do not envy you being on a layover. It's always so comfy and enjoyable when you're just sleeping in an airport or, you know, basically living in an airport while you wait for... I'm joking, because it's never fun. Oh my goodness. So is my mic coming through pretty good? I just want to make sure. Very cool. So a sewer system underneath a market, which I'm assuming people might, you know, use that to their advantage to sneak up and steal things and like get stuff, you know, from the market and then stash it down here or survive off of it. About 11 a.m. in Belgium. Darn. So wait, y'all are 9 hours ahead of us then? Or 9 hours ahead of me. It's about 2 a.m. here. 1:45 a.m. right now. I like this. This map's clean. Let's throw a token in and see what it looks like. Welcome to Jurassic Park. Oh my god, I'm a little silly. Dams after dark. Hey, Stormy. Yeah, you know, honestly, because of the sale right now, I am going to be doing a bunch of random, you know, just fun impulsive streams, and tonight was one of them. I actually planned to stream a little bit earlier, but my internet was having trouble, so I just kind of laid down, and then I had a little power nap, and when I woke up, it was working, so good to go. It's good to see you, though, Stormy. Welcome. And yeah, I don't normally stream in a late slot like this, so I'm excited to kind of see the different faces we see. Also, it's a little bit better for our friends across the pond, you know. As I'm based in Vegas, I try to stream at times that are more reasonable to me, you know, typically, but also still accommodating to people across the pond. So like I have a stream at 9 in the morning one day and 12 and 10 different times. So it's kind of like everyone across in Europe, it's their evening. 10:47. So yeah, it's like, do you mean AM or PM? Depending on where you're at. Ooh. Nice. Yeah, like I don't normally stream this late. I just figured, hey, why not? Put in an hour or two. And it allows people from different parts of the world to see DA and also different parts of our community that don't normally get to interact with us on our normal times a better opportunity to do so. It's about 2 a.m. here for me, so definitely an interesting kind of time slot. I'm considering adding like a nighttime stream into the mix so more people in our community can get a chance to interact with the team. Ooh, that was dangerous. This is really cool. I really like this map, even though I'm like trapped now. Never! So, I wonder if I just walk around in like first person like this and jump and like do my best to like explore the map constantly. If that will look like those Minecraft videos where they're like jumping around the map and platforming and exploring it. Oh, I'm stuck. No. So I don't normally like call people out in chat. You know, unless there's someone I want to like just say hello to. Because I usually let people like lurk. But there's a name in chat that's totally got me smiling. And I'm trying to remember what it's from. I feel like it's from a movie. So there's someone in our Twitch chat named Zoltan. And I feel like there's a movie and they like go like this or something. I can't remember what it is, but I just vaguely remember it from my teenage years. Whoa, there's like a rip in the fabric of reality here. You could see through the map. That is so cool. Yeah, it's about 2 a.m. here, so it's quite late. One thing I can tell you, if you're making a map and you're just, you know, throwing a bunch of objects in with the object brush, make sure you come into it with first person or lower your cinematic camera to make sure none of this stuff is happening. It really can, like, I don't know. I guess if you don't interact with the map in anything but top down, it doesn't matter. But if you're ever exploring it in first person, it can really kind of break it. And Adams, there was a movie of his called Don't Mess with the Zohan. But no, I think it was something like Zoltan. But they left, I feel bad. I called them out and they left. I wasn't even trying to call them out. I thought their name was cool. Okay. I think this map is run its course. Let's go find something else to check out. So have any of you checked out the workshop lately? It's kind of crazy that there's over 10,000 maps now, which is quite a bit of maps if you think about it. Like, just knowing that there is a massive amount of maps ready to go at any given moment that you could just pull from and use. It's nice. Ooh. I got this bullywug camp. Alrighty. Well, that's loading. I'm going to take a sip of juice. Wow. Well, those bullywugs are eating good tonight. One thing I really like to do with swampy setting maps, because typically I imagine bullywugs are like in a swamp setting, is to throw on like a light filter. You can throw on either of these greens, and it really just makes it feel more swampy. Like, very quickly. Or like acrid, and it's like a bog, you know? The light filters are a very fun way to quickly adjust your map and add a bit of change to it without doing much. You can quickly adjust the time of day, which a lot of people know this. Or you can go into the advanced menu, and then you have all these different positions, or like brightness settings, sun position settings, or like time of day and sun relative light position. And then also filters. I really enjoy filters a lot because they can drastically change a map just in a, couple swatches. And if you're not playing with light filters for your maps, it's like, why not? This is a great tool to just add a bit of diversity to your builds. So, I'd just like to take a moment to let everyone know that Dungeon Alchemist is on sale right now for the Steam Autumn Sale. It's 20% off. Very good deal. The best price you can get Dungeon Alchemist at. Once more, it's great simply because, if you're kind of sitting on the fence about it, you can get a deal for it and take advantage of that sale. But also, if you are kind of worried as to whether Dungeon Alchemist is for you, remember you can always try our demo and see if it will run on your system, sort of test drive it and get a taste of the overall program, so to speak. The demo is only a small slice of the pie. It's only about 1/8 or like 1/10 of what Dungeon Alchemist offers. In fact, I think you can only play in the forest biome in the demo. But even still, I think it's very fun to play with and export your maps and print them and whatnot. So if any of you are kind of interested in Dungeon Alchemist or wondering what it is, you can go to Steam and check it out. Is the demo free, or do I need a loan to afford it? The demo is free. Yes, absolutely free. Thank you for the silly joke, Stormy. Honestly, I am actually very happy that we have a demo. As the community manager, it was, I would say, a little frustrating at times that we didn't have a demo, and the only thing I could say was, like, you could try it, and then if you don't like it, issue a return on Steam. I didn't feel like that was a very professional stance, so I'm glad we have a demo that people can try before they buy. The big thing is seeing how Dungeon Alchemist runs on your computer. Every computer's different, right? your computer specs drastically different. You may have a couple computers at home, and one's a tank and the other one's like a potato. So I ultimately recommend, the demo for that reason, is getting a good feel of how Dungeon Alchemist will run on your system before investing in it. Demos are great. I've loved demos since I was like a little kid, and they would like ship them in the PC magazines, like PC World or whatever. There'd be like a disc come with a bunch of game demos on it. That, or like you go to like like a game shop and they'd have a demo unit set up that you could play. I swear I used to get hooked into those. My mom, like, we'd go to the mall and my mom loved shopping for hours and hours and hours. Like, I just didn't vibe with it. It wasn't my thing. So I'd ask my mom if I could go to like the GameStop equivalent at the mall. It was called Software Etc. And I would just sit in there and grind the the little demo station for like hours. I swear I got more like Dreamcast game time at that demo station than anywhere else. This map is quite cool. I could definitely foresee using something like this in my campaign. I mean, even if you don't do bullywugs, it's a good setting. Are any of you actively DMing a campaign right now? I say this across all chats right now. Are any of you an active DM, GM of a tabletop campaign at this moment? Raise of hands. And if you are, I would love to hear about your campaign. What's the campaign setting? Is it homebrew? Is it one of the main book settings or modules? Bernhardt Schubert says multiple ones. Well, that's awesome. I'm a little jealous. That's got to be cool, but also a bit of work. I'm sure you put a lot of time into managing multiple campaigns. I am, says John. Yeah, John, honestly, like, I am kind of in between campaigns at the moment, and I am so excited for this next one to start. So I'm in a one-shot coming up in a couple of weeks, and if this one-shot works out, it's going to roll into like a more long-term thing. And it's a bunch of my old friends who we haven't like hung out in years, because either, like they live in my old hometown or friends that moved away. And so we're like all linking up to hang out and game. And it's going to be pretty fun. I'm excited. So you're running multiple campaigns, Bernard. Jeez. Are they in the 5e setting? Or are they Pathfinder? A little mixture of everything? Like, where are you running your campaigns? By the way, I will like point out while we're looking at this map that this structure here, the swamp hut, actually has the option to close the roof, which is like, I mean, you can take the roof off, decorate the inside. It's actually kind of neat in that regard. There's a few objects in Dungeon Alchemist that are like modular prefab structures. Treehouse or hut or a tent type thing. There's an igloo. There's this swamp hut here. There's a Baba Yaga hut. This one's, because you can like open it and decorate the inside. Here, let's make it daytime. What's going on? It's animated. You notice the head of it, it's like it moves. It's pretty cool. It's one of my favorite assets in all of Dungeon Alchemist. You can play with the fire pit. Notice it changes colors there. Like, I don't even know why we do this stuff, but it's fun. Mine is homebrew, first time DM, but it's been running for 2 years now. Wow, John, congratulations. What level is the party? And how many players do you have? Pathfinder 1E, the min-max for me does not allow me to run any. Yeah, a Pathfinder is really optimized in that regard. Like, you can make some of the best, like, really well-rounded characters that are super powerful. I think Pathfinder really got that right as far as, like, just a little bit more control over your build. You know what I mean? Let's open some of these hatches there. So there's like a hatch to get into the bottom of this. That's so cool. I don't know. I think it's dope. So the more I read about Starfinder, the more I have respect for Pathfinder, which Pathfinder is like the foundation, the root of all of Starfinder. And yeah, it's quite impressive. It's an interesting system, and I kind of am mad that I never really like gave it the time of day until recently. I'm mad at myself more than anything. Starfinder is getting a second edition, and they have a like an alpha, and I have those books. I've been checking them out, the playtest. So I have the books like for Starfinder first edition, and then I'm checking out the playtest. It's interesting, but also the playtest is definitely needed. There's some things that just make certain aspects feel underwhelming in combat and stuff. Like, bows are just as powerful as lasers, and it makes 0 sense. Bernard on YouTube says, I want to run a Starfinder at some point, but most people in my friend group are not sci-fi fans. So, I mean, sci-fi is just fantasy in space, really. I mean, there's not a lot of difference between sci-fi and fantasy if you break it down to brass tacks. And like Heinlein, or was it Arthur C. Clarke? Yes, Arthur C. Clarke said it best with like that like advanced technology would be indistinguishable from magic or something like that, right? So I don't know. It really just kind of drives that point home. Oh, have you noticed some of the sci-fi maps that are on the workshop? Because you can now like download assets from the workshop that are sci-fi based or import your own. So here is like, oh, this one's one of my favorites. Yeah, exactly. But also, here's the thing about that, right, Stormy? If our phones would be complete magic to a person 250 years ago, and even that would only just be the functions that would work without a network, right? Like, obviously, if we traveled back in time and had our phone on us, like a, you know, kid in King Arthur's court type situation or whatever, like you traveled back in time. Anyway, what I'd like to point out is that your phone won't have a network, right? So you don't have the internet, so you can't do like GPS, you can't do a lot of the apps you love, you can't access the web and download all the information at your fingertips. But anything you had on your phone that worked independently of a, you know, the camera, for instance, that would probably trip people out. The light, right? Like a level. I'm pretty sure the star chart would probably, well, actually, no, it wouldn't, because you wouldn't have global positioning, because you wouldn't have satellites anymore. But some aspects of a phone would be completely magic to others. Like, it would be, they might want to, like, call you a wizard or maybe burn you at a stake. But I do agree that, you know, 250 years ago, our phones would be insane to people back then. I also think if you took someone of, like, just like an everyday Joe person and threw them 250 years ago, even with all the advanced knowledge they have, they probably wouldn't be able to like do very well back then. Mainly because like language evolves so much over 200 years, you wouldn't understand most of what they're saying at first. They'd probably think you're crazy or weird. And then most of the things you have and understand, you wouldn't know how to make them from scratch. There's this anime manga that I really enjoyed a few years ago called Dr. Stone. And it's essentially like the world like goes through like an apocalyptic event, but people are kind of like frozen as statues, and they can come out of this statue state. And when they come out, they're like, the whole world's in like a stone age, right? And essentially they have to bring everything back from the stone age. And the guy who like spearheaded the like effort to start bringing everyone back is like really smart, like super smart. He knows how to make everything from scratch. Oh, playing an MP3? Oh yeah. First off, the quality of music coming from your phone would be insane. But yeah, describing the internet, like, yeah, it would be crazy. But there's like documentation showing like Tesla describing kind of like an early form of the internet years and years ago. How he would say like people would send pictures and you know, information and data and mail over radio waves through handheld devices. And that they could check the weather and talk to each other and like all sorts of stuff. Dr. Stone is really good. It's a good show. And if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. I just noticed there was a third season like a few weeks ago. My son told me about it and I was like, what? There's a third season. I thought they wrapped it up with a little bow. So I'm going to have to check it out. So this map, oh, for sure. But it's like, okay, I understand a pulley, but do I know how to make one? Or like I've seen a pulley, you know, I've seen a snatch block, but do I know how to make one? Probably not. You know, Bernard, like, I know a lot of things, but I do not know how to build things from scratch. Like, I don't know how to, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much that would be, like, lost from a person going back, because you would need, I mean, even just to make, like, a microchip. Like, it's so much technology. Let's play a game across all our chats right now. Okay, the game. You can have any superpower you want. You got to share what that superpower is with chat. But once you share your superpower, the whole chat gets to decide what your weakness is. Gosh, this map is beautiful. Tesla's only been dead for 81 years. Complete arsenal for the win. What's that? You gotta explain it to me, Stormy. Not many. Like, it's kind of scary how few people, like, understand how a microchip works, like, inside and out, and could make one. You know what I mean? It's also crazy how much effort goes into making, like, modern day chips. I'm sure if you sat and, like, convinced someone that was, like, a modern day smith or, like, an expert, an artisan in their era, you could definitely make some interesting things. As long as you could convince them to, you know, work within your delusions. Oh, so you want to be like a Peter Petrelli Siler type person, one for all, or all for one type person? Is that what it is? Okay, how about this? You have complete arsenal, but you can only use it for 1 minute at high noon. Every day. That's it. You're basically like Escanor. That's... Ah, map is great. Telekinesis, I think. So, telekinesis is moving things with your mind, right? The ability to move stuff with your mind. So you're gonna just shift back through that 1 minute of time all day? See, that works for you, but everyone else in that 1 minute doesn't get to experience anything, so you'd just be alone. They basically reset every 1 minute. But you, on the other hand, you know what's going on. Because, you know, you have the powers to supersede that. I always get, like, for some reason, I don't know why, ever since I was a kid, I would always get telekinesis and telepathy mixed up. I feel like, you know, shows like X-Men didn't help either. Because you'd have some people that were telekinesis, some people were telepath, and some people were both. So it didn't really help. Anyway, moving on to that. Yeah, a telekinesis is a cool power. And it can be used for a lot of things. I mean, you could just move anything with your mind. I mean, that's pretty nice. Let's just say you can move anything with your mind. You have telekinesis, but the downside is that after you use your telekinesis, you immediately have to use the restroom. Like, immediately. If you don't get to the restroom immediately, you're going to have a problem. Anyone else want to pick a superpower and I pick the downside? Is it from like an anime or something? Because it sounds like something, the way it's phrased, complete arsenal, sounds like something from an anime. But also, I feel like shows that do like an all-powerful character kind of like really shoot themselves in the foot over time. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to say that's a bad thing. Like, if you have an all-powerful character, like, that's kind of the downside of Superman. Like, people kind of see him as this, like, godlike character, and it's kind of boring to watch his movies nowadays. I think it was great, you know, in the 70s and 80s. Christopher Reeve really had it in the pocket there, you know what I mean? But the newer Superman movies have really struggled to grab an audience, and I think it's because, like, Superman's just like, why do you need a Justice League when you have Superman? Hey, Aman, how you doing? Oh, wow. So your power is having perfect discipline. Hmm. Let me think of a monkey paw for this. right? They would often, like, in Super Friends and Justice League, Superman would be, like, unable to help for one reason or another. Hmm. Wait, the SCP isn't like SCP like a weird kind of thing where people like speculate on weird like paranormal entities. Superman was too busy stopping a volcano from erupting on the other side of the planet. This is awesome. This map is so cool. So this is a submarine. Yeah, that's what it is, right? Okay, I've watched a few of those videos and seen a few of them. They're kind of funny and interesting. Like, just like a paranormal type entities that they allegedly exist and are contained. I do laugh, but it's just funny that DC's like plot armor is like that. You know what I mean? So SCP is basically like the organization that Hellboy works for, right? Man, Dams After Dark gets a little spicy. We're over here talking about SCPs and like crazy stuff in here. I think I read a one, or like I've seen TikToks of them, like a video of one where it's like a computer that is sentient, right? It has an AI in it, and so they'll ask it questions and talk to it and stuff. But it's also like nefarious and plotting to take over the world, so they keep it contained in like a small room and it can't escape anywhere or connect to any networks. Okay, so perfect discipline. You have perfect discipline, but you are the most clumsy person in the world. So you're not lazy and you like are an overachiever, but you constantly like trip and like make mistakes and like do all these things that kind of set you back. Okay. Let's see. What other superpowers do we got here? Perfect memory. Perfect recall is an interesting power. I mean, being able to like memorize everything you read and see is a very, very, very powerful tool. True. What if you see something you just can't unsee? And then you're just cursed by it forever. So I really love how creative this map is. This is a submarine. That is so cool. So I'm confused as to why half of it's cut off over here. Huh. Like, trauma is pretty traumatizing, you know, Stormy? And I'll be honest with you, trauma has a big impact on memory. And if you have perfect memory and there's trauma mixed into there, it can be pretty earth-shattering, I'd imagine. So while you'll remember every page from every book, you also, you know, have to remember Maybe watching a loved one die, or watching them suffer in a hospital, or even yourself go through trauma, personal trauma. We're getting a little off track here, obviously, but I do like this game because it's always interesting to see what kind of powers people would pick for themselves. I'm surprised TikTok hasn't joined in on this conversation. Usually TikTok is all over this conversation when we do it. If you could pick a superpower and you'd have it, what would the superpower be? The only downside is you get to pick this power. I get to pick the monkey paw for the power of your weakness. Amon, what you been up to? Haven't seen you around in a little bit. Gosh, this map is beautiful. I loved when like they kind of justified and explained like Flash's need for calories in the newer Justice League movies. He's like, I have to eat so much because I need like hundreds of thousands of calories a day. He says something. He's like a black hole of snacks, a snack hole, and I just laughed at that because like. Finally, they're explaining that someone who has a superpower has to compensate for the amount of energy they're burning. 10,000, that's it? That's actually very efficient for what he does. Like, normal people eat 10,000 calories a day. There's some out there. Oh no, I'm on. Saying goodbye to 2 characters, that's gotta be sad. Are they re-rolling new ones, or are they moving on from the campaign? This is pretty. I know, but there are athletes who eat 10,000 a day, is what I'm saying. There are people out there that consume 5 to 10,000 calories a day like it's nothing when they're on like a crazy workout regimen. So the Flash, someone who can run around the world in like a second, eating only 10,000 calories is pretty impressive. It's pretty efficient if you think about it. Oh, gotcha. So the DM's gonna take a little hiatus. Are you stepping in then? It's always a bummer, but I get it. DMing is stressful. It puts a lot of pressure on a person, especially like if you're working and have family and friend obligations outside of DMing, and it starts adding up really quick, you know? Oh no, John. John's on Facebook says we're having a burial for a PC next session. So, player character died. No bueno. Oh. Yeah, Mosey, how you doing? Early, late stream, doing a little bit different time slot this evening. Because there's a sale with Dungeon Alchemist right now, we're 20% off on Steam. I'm gonna be doing a few extra like bonus streams to help, make different new community members aware of the sale, as well as answer questions for people who might be like looking to buy but not sure. Additionally, I'm there to answer questions for new members of our community who just purchased and just want to learn. Nice, nice. Getting ready for campaign prep day. Oh, how many hours a week do you normally put in on campaign prep day? By the way, I just want to say in any chat, if any of you all have a question related to Dungeon Alchemist, what you're seeing on the stream, this goes for Steam, this goes for TikTok, this goes for Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, everyone. If you have any questions related to the stream or Dungeon Alchemist as a whole, this stream is AMA format, which means ask me anything. So feel free to let me know, and I will do my best to guide you and answer your questions. You know, I don't normally stream at this time, so I'd like to share some teasers that I normally share on the normal time slot. Would y'all like to see some teasers from our next update? So some of you may have seen this, and some of you may not have, because it's been shared on some of our socials, and some of it's also only been shared on stream. I would say Q1 2025 is the best estimate. The devs kind of are optimistically shooting for February, but I like to just, you know, remain cautiously optimistic and plan for, you know, the worst. Like last update, we ended up having like a 2-month delay, you know, so. Well, I guess our Q1 is January through like April, so I guess it's Q1 for us. I don't know. I guess every business does a different Q. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know what our business is. It's Q1 for me. I just assumed that's what it was. But no, I'm thinking in the first 4 months of next year. More than likely. One moment. Yeah, you're right. Maybe 3. Just heard something and I wanted to check on what that was. It's at my office, but I think it was just probably a car driving by. But basically, you know, they're hoping for February, but, you know, if anything comes up or anything slows us down, could be a little bit longer. I don't like to be negative or say they can't pull it off, but, you know, you never know what can happen. I more like to plan for the worst. I don't like to overpromise. I like to underpromise and overdeliver. So looking at these clips here, if you will, there's quite a bit going into the next update, especially when it pertains to multi-level. So roofing, ceilings, raised walls to accommodate for, you know, objects that might have clipped over or through the ceiling, allowing transition. Yeah, exactly, Stormy. That's the thing, like, we never know what could pop up. And there's a lot of things in this update that, like, still they want to work on that are on the roadmap that, like, just aren't done yet, so looking at that, plus we have a holiday in December, like, for most of the team. I think that, you know, that February is, like, optimistic, but, you know, if we hit it, awesome. Oh my gosh, building castles and towers is actually very intuitive. So I've been playing with it a little bit, just in my own, trying to get used to it. I have a build now that I can play around with that is a functional version of the multi-level Fun with Objects build. And it is interesting, to say the least. There's a lot of new little features that snuck their way in that I wasn't anticipating. And on top of that, the multi-level function is very, very fluid and dynamic. It's quick. It's intuitive. There is a bit of work to be done with it. They said they're about 80-85% done with the overall work and testing of it. You can see in this video some of the things they want to work on. For instance, when you look at the ceiling of this. Hey, Raven. John here from Facebook. Switched to Steam. Nice. Okay. Cool. Good to know. Really excited for the next update. I'm really excited for it too. Was the Facebook feed giving you trouble? But if you look at like the top of the building when it's outside, you can see the pillars cutting through the roof. That's something we got to fix. Notice the pillars extend to touch the roof. We're going through, we depreciated all the old pillars and then went through and made pillars dynamically adjust to the ceilings. So they'll adjust to the gap above them and fill in the space automatically. So the big thing about multi-level is being able to make a functional multi-level space that you can navigate and also export, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to export this for play, right? The majority of TTRPG exporting and space is like done in a top-down format, right? You play in top-down. 3D like this is more immersive, and it just offers like a handout material, you know, video clips, stuff like that, or screenshots that you could send to your players to further immerse them in this 3D environment. But the hope is each level of a multi-level structure will be exported as a single layer. So you'll kind of go to export and you'll show that layer and export only that layer. So essentially within one map there will be like lots of little slices or mini versions of the map. Which we feel will be the easiest way to introduce multi-level exports to the most amount of VTTs, allowing reasonable amount of compatibility. So Mosey, our door and window functions already function in virtual tabletops that we have compatibility with. Like if you make a single floor structure with doors, windows, the exports for Foundry, Roll20, and Fantasy Grounds, also above VTT, include lighting, line of sight, windows, walls, doors, all the data for that to allow your players to interact with that environment in real time in the map without, you know, going into places you don't want them to. Now, how is the optimization for building? I mean, it's pretty straightforward, actually. I kind of learned how to do it in like a few minutes. Basically, the main thing you'll have to understand is shifting between the floors, which is a new mechanic. There is a little new UI element. Shoot, I don't know. I'm not really a developer, so I haven't really considered what kind of optimizations are being put into it. I will ask. Fortunately, I can't get an answer right away, so it would probably be, you know, next stream or something. Well, probably Monday, if anything, if I ask today. But overall, I would say that, you know, the development aspects of it, at first they were struggling with trying to make it fluid and functional, and it's gotten much better. As far as like what it offers and like how it's user friendly, all I can say is there's some hotkeys that are involved with it, and like a UI element that'll appear over here that shows the level you're on and arrows that you can transition between. You can use plus and minus to jump between the levels or those arrows. It's actually really, really fluid, and it's awesome in that regard. You can go subterranean, go underground, or you can go up vertical. I tested it one day, and I think I had like 15 levels, and I still hadn't hit the cap. And my computer really wasn't struggling, as far as I could tell. I feel it's because, you know, you're really only rendering what's visible, and you can really only see one room at a time, because there's not like a cross section that you can see all of them, or inside several. So you can only see the level you're actively, like, you know, on at that moment. The rest of the map is just, you know, would be like a tower below it or floors below it. Just walls. Which makes sense. Ah, bigger screen and keyboard instead of phone. That makes sense, Raven. That's smart. That's a good question. I haven't played around with it enough to really notice a difference. But in what I've done, like I built like a wizard tower that went like 6-7 stories tall, and then also went down subterranean several stories, and it had like offshoot hallways and stuff. In my testing, now I may not be the best judge of this because my computer is a bit of a tank. Um, Granted, it's not like top of the line or anything, but it's still pretty decent. But I did not notice major performance dips. Yeah, multi-level is definitely possible right now, I'm on, but it's a little trickier. It takes a little bit more time, and you gotta kind of figure it out. It's a by-hand process. You pretty much do everything yourself when it comes to multi-level right now. But in the next update, you'll be able to generate the next floor like you generate the first floor, and it'll automatically fill in the space. So multi-floor generation, generating the rooms and the shapes of the rooms above, is actually very intuitive and simple. And then it uses our proprietary proc gen or procedural generation to generate and fill in the environment or the rooms. Mm-hmm. Mosey Poe, you can definitely do that. You can do like balconies, mezzanines, multi-floor, all sorts of stuff. I have a video that kind of demonstrates it, but it's not like the best example, but it'll at least give you a little bit of an idea. So you can remove floor tiles from the upper floors, not just the intersection, but all the way to the wall if you wanted to. You just make it like a vaulted ceiling, you know? Didn't they integrate levels recently, Stormy? In like 12 or 13? Honestly, that's the practical solution, Amon, is to have multiple maps, you know, as a new scene for each floor. That's the smart way to do it right now. Doing it all on one map is really impractical, especially when it comes to export at the end of the day. Gotcha. Okay, good to know, Stormy. Good to know. Some other new features in the next update that are pretty cool. There is this new feature called the object brush. The object brush has been around for a while, but now you can make a custom brush. So you can select any object in the object panel, whether it's an object you have that's a stock object or an object from the workshop, and then turn it into a brush. What this means is Your workflow will be improved. You no longer have to wait for us to create a brush of the object you want to use. You can just create a brush yourself. So the object brush tool is great, but there's only a limited amount of brushes available because we've only made so many. I mean, you won't have to do it over, Raven. You could just do them separately still. And ultimately, if you build them all as one multiple structure, they'll export each level as a separate map anyway, so it's pretty much the same thing you're doing right now. Yep, I'm on. Yep, I guess if that's what you want to do, paint a pile of corpses for sure. As long as you have a corpse, object in your from the workshop or whatever, then yeah, you could do that. Yeah, it's a very neat tool for sure. There's a lot of neat new features being introduced in the next update. One thing I am hoping they'll introduce in the next update is the ability to group and save objects as like a prefab that you can, pretty much move around the map and copy and paste a grouping of objects around the map or to another map. So imagine you maybe decorated like these planters and you love the way they're decorated and you want to move it from this map to another map. We're hopefully going to integrate the option to create what's called a variant in the next update, which will allow you to essentially copy groups of objects between maps or have multiple groupings of the object on the same map. Oh, wow, Raven, that's cool. So, do you play locally then? Or do you play online within DA? Because that would be impressive. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I'm sorry, Mosey. Isn't that always the way it goes, huh? Oh, so you play online and share the screen on Discord. So you move the tokens for the characters. They just kind of tell you where they want to go. Not gonna lie, the bright light is starting to hurt my head. Ugh, it's so late at night. I don't like bright light. I think I'm a bit photosensitive. Kind of always have been. My brain's like, it's late, man. You should be in bed. But I'll survive. Like I said, took a little bit of a power nap before the stream, so I should be good for a bit. So I've played in a couple campaigns where the maps were DA based, and in a couple, in one of them, the DM would stream the first-person view. So wherever we were in top-down, like we're playing in Foundry, right? And so if my token was just over here somewhere, right? Then the DM would drop a token and kind of like look around. Or anytime we ask, they would put a token in and stream the first person view to us on Discord. So we could be like, hey, could you get a closer look at this workbench over here? I'd love to see what's on it. Or in the shed. You know, that way we got like a first person perspective of everything in there. And it really allowed for more immersive role playing. And I find that, you know, there's bound to be players on the table who may not have like a perfect mind's eye that allows them to see and imagine everything like everyone else. And also at the same time, everyone kind of envisions everything slightly different from each other. So with that in mind, I think it's good to allow your players to immerse themselves in this environment from a perspective that is very normal and real to them, you know, through their own eyes. I don't know. Here's the thing. Do you need a perception check to use your own eyes in the real world? That's a very passive ability that a player character should be able to do even at level 1, is my opinion. I think this is just expanding the environment for them to better immerse themselves and play and RP in it. Because technically their characters have eyes and should be able to see at their own like eye level in first person. In fact, we robbed them of that by playing in top down. So this really just allows them to see through their character's eyes for the first time. A check, do that if you want on your own table. Me personally, I think that's kind of trivial when it comes to an ability that should be just like a passive thing that they should normally have already. How well they see things, you know, could be up to you. I also played on a table where the DM would, like, you had to use inspiration to see in first person, but then they would let you, like, rifle through things in first person. You're like, can you open this and open that and check that out? And they're like, anything you see is something that's there. So the DM took time to, like, put stuff inside of things. One thing you can do to solve that is just constantly stream the first person view to them, but then only follow along like behind them, you know, maybe every 30 seconds, just move the character to catch up to where they're at and look where they're looking. And then they can just ask you, hey, can you take a closer look at this workbench or you know, this blackboard? I want to get a look at this. And then you would be like, oh, you notice a formula on the blackboard. Would you like to roll an investigation check to learn more about it? You know, because that way it gives them more interactive options, you know? Anyway, my son was kind of learning D&D, and the DM did this. By streaming the first-person view, I feel like it gave my son more opportunities to interact, because he wasn't used to, like, playing a game of imagination where he's like very much into video games and stuff. It really helped him kind of learn and understand how to play better. Anyway. So, Raven, are you kind of just running the whole dungeon in first person and theater of the minding it off of the perspective you kind of show them, and then they can ask you to move closer to things, and it's almost like a choose your own adventure kind of Myst game, but in D&D? Oh, that's cool, Mosey. I like that. That's good. So you have immersive handouts in first person for like areas of interest. By the way, I built this entire tower by hand using objects. No AI room generation or room generation at all. So it's just kind of like Lego. Essentially delicately stacked everything on top of each other until it got to this point. This is a 4-story wizard tower that is completely navigable. And I made sure each level was exportable by itself. So, you can pull off the tower or the lid, the roof, right? And I grab the lid, the roof. There we go. Move it to the side. Each floor can be kind of pulled out, kind of like a pull-apart piece, or like, you know, like old like Legos or doll houses. You know how they like had sectional pieces that you could pull off and look inside. That's kind of how I designed this. Was that like I anticipated it to be, you know, something that you could pull apart, delete parts, and just export this 4th floor. Pull off this 4th floor, delete that, export the 3rd floor, export the 2nd, etc. So you could have multiple levels of the same building, even the roof of it. Yeah, passive perception's one of those things you either love it or you hate it. I know, like, I played on a table where the DM disliked it a lot, mainly because we had someone with wicked high passive perception. So it was like pointless. They just knew everything. They couldn't be surprised. And they were a sentinel, like, feat on them too. So they were just like impossible to surprise, right? So basically the DM gave up on passive perception and just like, and passive perception adds a lot of different rule sets that people don't consider, like with surprise rounds and like ambushing and stuff. Like, you need to weigh passive perception against people all the time, and it just adds a lot of extra math for DMs. So I think they just forget about it. The thing is if you know, you're not going to run the mechanic of passive perception more than anything. You do need to give them opportunities to find secret things that you laid out for them. Give them hang lanterns, lay breadcrumbs, so they can find these things better. You know what I mean? One thing I love to do is sound effects. Like in virtual tabletops, you can usually like place sound effects in areas. Like I don't know. Like, I feel like a human, like in an area, like, they'll hear things, they'll feel things, they'll see things. We get tactile response to all the things we do constantly, right? If you stepped on a floorboard and it felt a little wiggly compared to the rest, or like, you know what I mean? If you walked through a cave and felt a current through like a small, like, you know, other like entry or passageway, you know, those things are natural, like normal things that humans have been doing forever. So like, you know, finding, like a switch or, you know, that might be a little bit harder, but maybe feeling like something that might be like a passive thing that you notice something's amiss or off, that's definitely okay. And also, if they're a player who is like a rogue who's really good at spotting traps, like, more often than not, I'm just gonna, you know, the rogue will probably have found it or spotted it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to negate all traps per se, but I don't know. I think passive perception is one of those mechanics you either love it or you hate it. It is really that. All right. Is there any maps y'all checked out recently that you thought were pretty cool? Jungle Graveyard. I like that. Looks like there might have been a tower here that just kind of collapsed over time, so it's just kind of fallen all over the area. Then you could see an area below it, a little passageway. Cool. I have like a pinched nerve in my like upper spine in between my shoulder blades. Every once in a while, I'll feel it as I'm like kind of trying to breathe. It'll like, it's like, it's like a stab. When after the stream, probably do a little bit of stretching and try and stretch it out or get it to pop or whatever. Not the worst when you're like got like a little pain in your back or neck or something that just makes it impossible to just really be comfortable. That's where I get pinched nerves in my upper neck all the time. All that computer time. Anyone here in chat celebrate Thanksgiving? I know we got a lot of people across the pond, so may not be any late night owls here, but I just thought I'd ask. So I've been reading into the new DMG, the 2024 DMG, and there's an interesting excerpt in it that is all about bases called bastions. I don't know if anyone's like read about that or heard about it at all, but it is a very interesting addition to the DMG because I definitely feel like it complements DA. Bastions are essentially an integration option that you can choose to do with your players that allows them to start building up a base at level 5. And the base, i.e. Bastion, gives you all sorts of passive abilities as you add more, functions to it. And these passive abilities are... fair enough, Mosey. So a friend of mine gifted me a copy, and so I was like, you know what? I will not say no to this, right? Took that copy, and I've been reading through it just to kind of get a feel for it. And I was very impressed with at least some of the content. The Bastion aspect is something that really caught my attention because I feel like base building and like owning property and like structures and fixing them up was really just skimmed over in the last DMG. There was like a page and a half of it showing like information with hirelings and the cost of buildings and like how much time it would take, and then like there was a little bit in the player handbook about hirelings as well, and it just left you to your own devices, which I don't mind per se, but it's also frustrating when like you're hoping for a little bit better fleshed out mechanics for this and reward system for it. And now there is. That is the most interesting part. So like you had to like there's so much math involved in the old DMG for owning a structure, even a tavern or like a castle, because you have to have hirelings that you have to pay like constantly and math it all out, right? If anything, one thing I'm going to do is just do the Bastion aspect of the 2024 with 2014 rules, because it fleshes out that aspect of 2014 enough and it feels really good. But starting at L5, your players you can sit with your players and say, hey, if you want a base, there's this base you guys, you just cleared out and you have a chance to take it, or they could buy one that's new, whatever. It could be any instance of things. They could build one that's completely custom. And at L5, each player gets a bastion. The bastions can be separate from each other or linked, but if they're linked, they're kind of beneficial because they each kind of share benefits, and each person can do different things thematic to their like character and class. So like the wizard, for instance, who is more scholarly, may have like a library or, you know, something that to that degree, right? Whereas say the rogue might have a pub because he uses it to gather intel and information of all the people who come through. But basically at level 5 you get a bastion with two pieces, two add-ons, and so you could say I want like an armory and a library. And the armory and the library come decked out with all the things they need. You just have, depending on, so some of the add-ons cost, some of them are free with your level. And there's upgrades to bastions that make them larger and more efficient. And basically, you essentially have like different aspects of the base mechanics that you can focus on if you want to. So, let's say you did have a library. The library is great for researching information or spells or other stuff. You can have your hireling researching information on like a dragon you're looking for while you're out adventuring, and it'll be looking through the library's volumes to see if it can find anything on it. Because dragons are a little bit more timeless and might be referenced more, several times in history. Or, maybe there's a magical item you're looking for and they can research it, or historical information. So essentially it adds more fun to your downtime and hireling mechanics, if you will. There's all these different bastion add-ons that your players can pick and choose from at different levels. So it's like at 5, 9, like certain intervals. And each of the bastion add-ons give you things that are like a passive ability, or if you spend time in that bastion in between adventures, you get like, like upgrades to your stats for a few days or 7 days or whatever. So there's like a meditation room you can go in, or a training room you can go into, and the training room is neat because you're trained by like an expert fighter in a certain ability set or skill set, and then after you train for a few days, then for like 7 days you get a boost to say your athletics or whatever. It's kind of neat. You can get an arcane library that has all these like volumes in it, and it comes with one volume to begin with, and the volume gives you like a passive investigation check or something bonus, like advantage on it or something. I don't know. There's all these like neat little abilities. You can add a teleporter to your base, which I think is a neat addition, that allows your players to kind of fast travel between teleporters they've experienced, and they know the codes for the rune set up for it. So they can teleport back to their base using a teleport spell, or they can use it to teleport to other, gates. And it can also summon like a caster to that point, like once a week, and they'll do you a favor cast. They'll cast a spell, any spell you want. So you could like, at certain levels, they can only cast certain level spells, but as you level up, they level up. So by like 17, they can cast any level 8 spell for you once a week. Which, it is a little gimmicky, but at the same time, I think it adds neat little, like, downtime mechanics, which are sorely needed. You know what I mean? One thing, I also think it adds more RP for your players in their base, and it makes it feel more like their own. Like, you can have a menagerie, i.e. you can capture, like, beasts or monsters and keep them in, like, a zoo, and like check them out and like also train them, and they can become like your pets or like defend your base. You can have a stable that you can keep like, horses and camels in, or like an elephant if you wanted to. Icebreaker, so you're trying it out? Honestly, like, I feel like they did a great job at introducing this new mechanic and giving it a lot of like flesh for your teeth to really like sink into and enjoy, to try and like grow with. And it seems like you won't really get into the end game of it until the end game of your campaign. So like, it's, I don't know, it just feels really good. It's solid, and if there's areas of it that feel funky, you can always make adjustments at your own table. Like it's much better foundation than the 2014, like, base building and hireling mechanics. Like, I love that every bit of your bastion has the hireling for it, and they're paid for, and they get their food and accommodation. You don't need to worry about all that stuff. It's just taken care of. And it's like when the only one you need to worry about is if you're hiring, like, soldiers. So you need a barracks to keep all the soldiers on site to defend your bastion when you're away, because it can get attacked while you're away. There is a roll chart for bastion stuff. So you have bastion actions based on the different bastion rooms you have. And you could just say, maintain. But when you do maintain, you have to roll a D100 and there's a chance your bastion gets attacked. So you're like introducing them, like, what level are your players? Because a level 17 bastion would be dope. I'm not going to lie. By the way, welcome to the conversation, Icebreaker. Noticed you're a first-time chatter. Just want to say hello. My name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. If you have any questions related to DA, please feel free to let me know, and I'd be glad to assist. And 4 years of a campaign, that's awesome. I'm jealous. So, Raven, tell me about your base building mechanic. Yeah, I was reading, aren't the mechanics either like weekly or monthly, depending on how you want to scale it or something? But what I really love about the mechanics for the base, like, the more things you have on your bastion, the more chances for random encounters happen. So you could have like a royal person visit and they want to stay in your bastion, and then they'll like pay you after they stay there. Or you could have like refugees want to stay in your bastion. If you don't have enough room for them, they'll camp outside and then they'll pay you for protecting them. Like, or somebody might give you a random gift or a treasure, or you might discover like a treasure or something because you have a bastion that does those things. Yeah, fair enough. Honestly, where they're level 17 though, I highly doubt this kind of introduction for base building would be too much overwhelming. Like, by that point, if they're a caster, they have insane spell lists, and even if they're a marshal, they have a crazy amount of abilities and actions and things they can do in combat. So, like, saying, hey, you can build a bastion all together, and each of you get, 5 bastion options is really not gonna, I hope, not overwhelm them too much. But there is a lot of sub-mechanics in bastions to learn all of a sudden, so definitely, like, roll it out at their pace. You understand them the best. You just waiting for a new campaign or something, Mosey? Rather than jump into it mid-campaign. You might sneeze. Okay, I guess I didn't. Man, 6 months in the labyrinth, if they would have had a bastion, their bastion would have been maintaining itself and doing stuff the whole time. So if you had, like, told them to, like, research magic items, they would have probably found a few. Like, you can craft stuff, magic items, in, like, a blacksmith or something, up to, like, common, I think, or uncommon. But you have to supply all the, like, materials and money for it, so Oh no, they were all prisoners? Oh no! So it was like a prison escape? Prison break? Man, I'm jealous. I've always wanted to do a prison break campaign. But I don't want it to start in the prison. Like, I'm hoping, like, we're kind of mid-level, higher level where we get into prison at some point. Like, our party gets captured, right? Like, I've always wanted a party that like, gets TPK, but instead of being TPK'd, I capture them and put them in a prison, and then they have to escape. I.e., they have to first escape their cells, which is a puzzle, you know? Okay, what do they have on them that they can do? Especially once all their gear's been confiscated from them. You know, obviously there's spells that can be cast with just, like, vocal or somatic, so you don't actually need things. But goodness, would it be tricky, right? Prison Break is, like, one of my all-time, like, bucket list campaign things. Yeah, that's a good way to do it too. I mean, Baldur's Gate did that years ago. Like Baldur's Gate 2, you start in a prison break. You're all prisoners of a, you know, like, I don't mean to do spoilers, but the game's like 20 plus years old at this point. So yeah, you all start in a prison. You're all in different cells and different rooms being tortured and by like a evil, you know, necromancer. And then essentially you all break out together, and that's how you form a bond because you were all prisoners, but it's like each of you were there for different reasons, you know? They've got a small building at the start. One of the main missions they have is making allies to prepare so they can get NPCs like smiths and stuff, raising their standing. They're also forming a small private army, so the base is getting bigger, with building a brewery so the dwarf can sell his beer. You should really look into the mechanics of Bastions, Raven, because it's really similar to that. You can have an army of men, so you can hire lieutenants who will then go raise armies for you of men, or you can have soldiers on site in barracks that you're like have limited abilities and like a limited stat block. You also can have a brewery and a pub. You know, I'm involved in a one-shot in a couple weeks. I might just drop that idea to the DM if he has a prison break one-shot. That might be a good idea for the group to start with. Because, like, dang, that'd be fun. Oh. But yeah, like, I don't know. Prison breaks are, like, I think a very, like, interesting mechanic in fantasy role-playing games that are underutilized, especially for introducing the group, and or, you know, resetting the group if they get a little too powerful. You don't want to steal all their gear, but you separate them from their gear long enough for them to feel the fear. You know what I mean? And maybe they lose a couple items, but nothing too crazy. One shots are impossible for you. What do you mean? You literally cannot. You want to... Is it just too short, or you want more, or what? Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think, like, here's the thing. So I, like, DM'd for a while, and the players would not run. Like, they just never would run. Like, no matter the circumstances, they'd fight to the last man, right? And this would cause TPKs all the time. It was kind of like a party mentality, though. They just would fight to the last man, never surrender. I would fight and fight for my party and try to protect them and save them and get them out of here, right? So the problem is there were scenarios where they were going to be overwhelmed. It was storytelling where I was trying to set them up for like, oh, you need to come back to this area later, or oh, this big bad may capture you. So ultimately, I love the idea of players that, a little bit too cocky for their britches, getting captured, getting thrown into a dark prison pit where they're not really thought about or cared about, and by the big bad or his people, because they're in a prison. It's not like they're gonna keep an eye on them every day. To them, you're this is an average day, but to you, they're like ruined your whole world, right? Maybe killed your family member, whatever. So you're in prison, you want to get out, and you meet all your teammates, maybe in the same cell or separate cells on the block, and then it forms a partnership, a bond. You all have a similar enemy because you're being captured here. The tavern is a great introduction, but yeah, putting your players in a prison, because they're too cocky, putting them there so they have to escape together is a great way to test them with their abilities and skills and see what they can do without all their gear and magic items. It's also a great way to build a group's bond. Whether it's a new group or an existing group. Having to kind of put their heads together and get out of something that is tricky and not like the normal situation. That's really cool, Raven. It's really cool. Yeah, the problem with one shots is they should mostly be like a thruple, like a 3-shot. It's most of the time 1 is not enough, 2 is usually not enough, 3 is like the Goldilocks. 2 to 3 usually gets it done, but I really hate when the 1-shot is just getting started and then they have to like wrap it up because of time constraints or whatever, so they just wrap it up. Like, I've been in a couple 1-shots like that where they just kind of like didn't pick up steam, and then when they did, it just like ended. Luckily, with the 1-shot I'm going to be involved in a couple weeks, the hope is that it'll expand into something more long-term. No, a 1-shot is a great way to test drive the table, test drive the GM, test drive the group's, dynamics and chemistry. Another great way to make sure the table melds well is to do a session 0 instead. You can even do a session 0 before a 1-shot, but it's kind of trivial if all you do is a 1-shot. But a session 0 is a great way to kind of get all the players on the same page. You sit down in like a voice call or, a text chat and discuss the plans for the campaign, where you're going to start, basic rules. Are you doing standard array? Are you doing rolling for stats? How much starting gold, all that stuff, the basics. But also, like, a no list is great. You can, as a DM, I think it's wise to create a list of, like, things that people are, like, okay with and not okay with. Because that way it gets the whole table on the same on the same plate for like, interaction and RP and, what type of things happen. A great example is I played at a table where there was a person who was arachnophobic, so the DM didn't do any like spider themed mobs to accommodate to them, which I think was really nice. Also, if you don't want certain elements on your table or certain themes, it's a good idea to discuss it beforehand to make sure every player is on the same page. That way, you have a better chance for long-term success. Honestly, and I love hearing different DMs like strategies for maintaining long-term sessions. Um, because I feel like, you know, that is the biggest bat of all, like, scheduling conflicts and, like, keeping a group together over the long term is the hardest thing to do. Interpersonal conflict and or scheduling conflicts primarily. Usually don't have an issue with players. It's usually people's just scheduling is hard to line up as adults, which I totally understand. But I have had a couple of players that were just awful. Like, I don't know. I'm really over players who are there just for themselves and not for the, like, this is a group exercise. It's a group game. Let's play as a group. You know what I mean? I'm not going to force you to play with us by any means, but constantly doing things against the group because your character would do that, or putting the group at risk because your character would do that, or just being an asshole because your character would do that, it's really detrimental to group play. I think a lot of people forget that everyone there is a person with, like, work and family and school and schedules and things they got to do, and so they all want to sit down and enjoy, you know, a few hours of gameplay and not, you know, have it domineered by someone who just needs to be the absolute center of attention or cannot play as a group. There was, like, a rogue who insisted on being, like, really edgy like that and just didn't want to, like, communicate with the group or anything. It's like, why are you playing this group game if you don't want to be part of the group at all? Like, if you don't want to talk to the group, communicate with the group, run with the group, do any kind of working with the group in battle, like, why are you even with this group if you don't want to play as a group? Always doing things that gets, like, party members killed or in trouble or themselves. Like, just doing really silly things that, like, make zero sense, or I don't know. Like, I remember this table I was at. Why is it almost always a rogue? What is it about rogues that brings out this, or bards typically? There was a rogue, and the DM gave our first quest, which the quest was to go and clear these kobolds out of this wizard's mansion. The wizard couldn't be bothered with it. He was busy studying at a library, and he wanted his home back and cleared out, but he just didn't care. And so we kind of got the vibe that he was really powerful and could probably do it himself, and just didn't really want to be bothered with it. And the other thing, there was one, like, rule for the entire job was, don't steal anything in my house. I'll be paying attention. I'll be watching. So I kind of had this vibe he might have had, like, an arcane eye or something to spy on us, right? And we're there 5 minutes, and the rogue is like, I think I'm going to steal this book in here. And I go, so you remember when the guy said not to steal? That was the only thing on this one job that was, like, the only condition of this job. Just clear out the kobolds and don't steal anything. Like, I like planning heists. I love stealing stuff from the shopkeep or planning a heist to go break in somewhere. But if the job specifically says not to do it, like, why put the whole party at risk because you can't keep your fingers in your pockets? So I basically just told this player, I was like, man, like, in character, I was like, please do not steal this. The patron has asked us not to, and we're trying to gain a reputation in this area and get more jobs. I'm broke. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. The rogue isn't a free pass to be a criminal or a murder hobo. Okay? I think professional rogues, the best thieves, are the ones that don't just steal everything to steal it. Okay? They're the ones that steal things and you don't even know it. Right? Or they plan out elaborate heists. I don't know. But I just have, I've ran into a few edgy rogues and bards that are, like, just a little too much. Like, and I was playing an artificer, so an artificer can double as, like, a rogue, especially if they have good infusions or pick the right infusions. And, like, can really help out. And I was like, hey man, I'll help you plan a heist of, like, a, you know, a shop, a magic shop, a bank, but we're not going to rob this, you know? So, like, I understand in a campaign, you just, like, want to have fun, do whatever. It's kind of a lawless situation. Really, there is no consequences. But, you know, it's like, you know, maybe there might be to not playing as a group with a group. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we were able to persuade them using the groups like, what, you know, this is a democracy, we're going to vote and whatever. And then they were going to roll to be like, oh, I'm just going to steal it anyway. And I go, well, that would be considered PvP at this point because we disagree and we're not having PvP in here because we didn't allow it. We didn't say we'd be doing it, and the DM agreed and didn't allow him to steal it. Like, do a roll to steal it. Like, if we had allowed him or been cool with it, then he could have done a roll. It's just like, it was just silly. And I even offered, like, hey man, why don't we copy what's in the book? Like, I have paper, I have documents. Let's write down what we see in it so we don't have to steal it. Like, I was coming up with solutions to like allow them to do what they wanted so the whole party would be happy, and it just like turned into an argument in our first session. Hey, Quest says don't steal. First thing they do, steal. It's like, I just, some people are contrarian just to do so. You know what I mean? There's a joke, one of my moderators say, Sue, I say he's the biggest contrarian. He does it on purpose just to say the opposite of me. It is Death's House. It's part of Death House. Yep, it says COS Death House up here, F2. But as soon as I'm like, Sue, you're the most contrarian person I know. You do the opposite of whatever I say. And he goes, I do not, in chat. That's not true. It's like a perfect trap. No matter what you say, you're wrong. And like, I understand this is their like chance to be this person where they have a lot more control. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. You have a little bit more control in this slice of your life where you're playing in this like environment where you're like a powerful being. And being contrarian to the group allows you to kind of set your identity and have a little bit of slice of control. But at the end of the day, it really just pisses everyone off. Like, it's a group exercise when you're there to play as a group, right? I understand going off and doing your own thing. But yeah, that beloved line that this is what my character would do, when someone says that, I almost immediately just sigh and roll my eyes in the back of my head. You know what my character would do if you were threatening his livelihood and job? True, you don't need 3 Batmans. I'm okay with the rogue being a rogue sometimes, but there's time and place for it. You know what I mean? That's all. That's my piece. As you can tell, I've had some really bad experiences with just some really just interesting rogues. Let's just say that. Oh, for sure. When it comes to wizards, I like to think that, like, a lot of times they accidentally stumble onto magic. Like, if you're out there just practicing and doing all these random incantations and, you know, writing all this stuff down, I think really it's just a lot of trial and error until they get it where they want, you know? They're definitely not a sorcerer or a warlock. It's not innate or like second nature. So there's a lot of practice involved. I definitely respect the wizard's grind. You know what I mean? Oh man, you know, it's getting kind of late. It's getting close to 4. So right? Yeah, exactly. Like if a wizard did everything a rogue did, like if a wizard acted like a rogue, they would literally be using spells to do every little thing in their life. And I guess some wizards probably do get to that point at certain points. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I love rogues normally. I think the class is really cool. I've yet to find players who are like team players. They always want to be like the lone wolf in the group for some reason, which makes 0 sense. Go play you know, Baldur's Gate 3 if you want to be a lone wolf. Right? Unseen Servant is actually one of the most goated spells. So like I had a DM that like we'd have to travel a lot, you know, between areas, and they would definitely track travel and time and resources. And when we'd stop at night, if we just kind of set up a camp and didn't really like barricade it or do anything special, we would be more than likely attacked. Or like, you know, someone would try to talk to us or something, approach our camp. Whether it was, you know, neutral, positive, or negative varied. But if we took the time to barricade our camp, cover it, you know, with like impromptu fortifications and stuff, then people wouldn't approach us or attack us as often. So Unseen Servant was like my go-to. Because you could just summon a bunch of them, right? Like on rituals. And so in like 60 minutes, because they last like an hour, right? Don't they? Or like, how long does an Unseen Servant last? I can't remember. But what we would do is just summon a few of them and get one to start digging like a trench and another to start, you know. So essentially you just keep kind of like summoning them and getting them to do tasks over that hour, and like they'll keep doing things. And so before it's all done, you have a bunch of Unseen Servants helping you like dig trenches and you know, cut lumber and put in posts and like do all this stuff, run rope around. And then you have like an actual barricaded camp using Unseen Servants. The other one is just the old you know, Leomund's Tiny Hut is a great one because you can just make it dark. So you make it blacked out so it's as black as the night sky, and you could be in the middle of the forest with a fire inside. The inside is lit and no one can see inside, and you can see out. But like I had a DM that was really sinister about that. Anytime we use Leomund's, they would inevitably, for some reason, an enemy patrol found us, no matter where we were. And then they'd bring all the enemies to try and fight us. So we'd have a group of them gang up on us as soon as we got out. It was really silly, to say the least. And it gotten to this point where we, like, I was just like, if you're going to do this cheese with us every time we use Leomund's Tiny Hut, then why not just get rid of it if you don't like the spell. But the thing is Leomund has a point. It's a really specific spell that's designed to give your characters like a rest deep in a dungeon or have a safe long rest. So if you don't want people to have safe long rests, like if you're going to be spiteful over it, just get rid of the spell. Pull it from the game. That's my mentality. I told the DM if he's going to cheese me over it, I'll cheese him over it, and we'll just cast a new one using a ritual and extend our a bubble and just travel the whole dungeon that way. So, like, that's the thing. Like, you can really be cheesy with Leomund's tiny hut, and obviously all you need is a mage with Dispel Magic to get rid of it. So it's really not the end of the world, you know? But I just told them, like, man, it's really silly to think that our invisible tiny hut that's dark as the night sky, under the night sky, that is invisible, basically, gets walked upon in the middle of the forest by people every time we use it. Someone who wants to attack us, no less. You banned it from the labyrinth? Evil. You said they spent 6 months in there? They couldn't take us like a long rest at night without worry? Oh man. That is some evil GMing there. I like it. Twisted. Honestly, it sounds like quite a challenge. Interesting. So it was a creature that kind of siphoned their powers or something? I mean, like, for instance, the Twilight Cleric gets that spell as an always prepared spell, and it's a ritual. So it makes sense that the Twilight Cleric would want to use this spell. What are some interesting things that are like normal mechanics in the game but end up driving people crazy, or you ban them from your table because they end up being cheesy? Counterspell is banned from your table? That's an interesting one. Mosey, are you the DM that, like, you have to have your spells hit? Like, I just used a spell slot. It's gonna do something. Every table is a little bit different. I've had tables, they're like, you want to use, you want to use, you know, counterspell, totally fine. You want to use, shoot, what is that one that's, Silvery Barbs is like one of the most universally hated spells. I think it's an interesting spell. Yeah, Silvery Barbs is what it is. I noticed, so you're fine with Silvery Barbs, but don't like Counterspell. Interesting. Interesting. The duality of DMs. Um, uh, One thing I've seen that, like, Silvery Barbs was added through a mod in Baldur's Gate 3, and they slided it up to a level 2 spell instead of a level 1, which I think balances it out a little bit more because it is, like, seriously overpowered for an L1, but I don't mind it on my table. Yeah, that's true if they're using it for that purpose. Silvery Barbs is an interesting spell. To say the least. That's true, Amon. Like, you only have one reaction per round unless you're like got some crazy feat or something. Or whatever. But yeah, like, there's only so many counter spells that can be dropped before they run out of spell slots. Oh man, Icebreaker, that's crazy. You only have one spellcaster in your entire group? What I think is a good balancing mechanic instead of banning spells is just letting your players know that if a spell is used by them, you can use it too just as much. So, you know, your casters will often use spells that other people might use. So if you have a player that's obsessed with using counterspell or silvery barbs, remember they can always get it back at some point. And I think once a player gets that back a couple of times, gets a taste of their own medicine, they stop using it as frequently. Oh man, you got a lot of casters in your party there, Mosey. So I could understand why getting rid of counterspell was kind of a thing. The thing is okay, so you want your NPCs to have natural strategy, right? There's going to be casters who have counterspell. Similar level casters who have similar ability, right? There'll also be groups that adapt to your group, i.e. if they have people who escape and report what happened, or maybe they had someone watching you from afar while you were killing off their men and they learned your strategies. What you shouldn't do as a DM, I don't think, is on this instantly adapt your strategies around your players' play, kind of metagaming your players. When I was a young DM, I kind of sucked at that. I was always like trying to make the encounters more challenging, upping them after each game. It's like, oh, you guys blew through this one, let me up it up, and I'll have this to counter this and this to counter. That made it unfun for them because then their abilities felt like they were just constantly being countered by, you know, this ever upgrading enemy that essentially knew every bit of their strategy without ever interacting with them. When you use it often, enemy might adjust their strategy is a great way to say that. Or, you know, anything you use, an enemy can potentially use. So any of their classes, any of their spells that they use and use a lot, they may run into. Man, the first time the group gets fireballed, they are scared. Oh, sounds like an interesting party makeup there, Mosey. Having those three casters. What type of artificer is it? I mean, it's silly if there was a group of like, say, you know, guys like an army you ran into a lot, right? And you were killing off their guys left and right. First off, they're not going to be happy about this. They're probably going to get their best men together to put together some sort of like group that's out to hunt you, right? Like a posse or a you know, like a, what do they call them? Anyway, they'll put together a group that's their sole function is to figure out why you're so effective against them and to take you out. So they'll either hire people who will be better suited to take you out, or they're going to adjust their strategy to take a hit squad. Yes. I was also thinking, like in the police, they'll set up a group, like a committee of people to like research something and like try to make arrests on something. I can't remember what it's called. It's definitely not a hit squad in the police. But yeah, a hit squad is, anyway, basically a task force is what they're called. Task force. So a task force, a think tank, a hit squad, bounty hunters, all of these things might be put into effect to try and stop a group of players that are, you know, consistently taking out like an enemy or a group of enemies that are all under the same flag or banner, right? Maybe it's a cult, maybe it's an army, maybe, it's the necromancer's crew, whatever. Any number of things, right? So the more you interact with a group, especially if they have people surviving or escaping, or you leave evidence, i.e., bodies that can be raised from the dead or speak with dead, eventually people are going to figure out who you are and then start trying to attack you or counterattack you. So it makes sense to have, strategy-based humans that adapt and or adapt based on what's happening in combat. That being said, I don't think they should pre-adapt to you if you've never interacted with that group before. Like, if it's your first time interacting with a group of brigands, they shouldn't have spells that can counteract you. They may have one guy in the group that's like that, whatever. But yeah, you get the idea. Like, that's how I kind of balance my encounters and random encounters. Like, I love random encounters to use them to interact with people they've interacted with in the past that they may have wronged. Like, maybe they killed someone's father and the son's been training in the background, or daughter, to get revenge on this party. And they're slowly, getting stronger and stronger and may run into them later. Or maybe a big bad escaped earlier and now he's raised more men and he's leveled himself up and has traps and other things too to make himself more formidable when you run into them the next time. Bounty hunters, hit squads, task force, all those things are great too, because then it puts your players on edge if they're wanted or known that they're wanted in different areas by different groups because you didn't pay a toll and killed all the guards, or decided that these guards were not really good guys and killed them all, even though they've been the prevailing army in this region for, 100 years, or any number of things. I'm sure a new group coming into power and just start murking everything they run into is eventually going to irritate someone. Do you implement revenge mechanics, or like a sort of a nemesis system, if you will, into your games? It is, Consummate Nerd. Honestly, normally I don't stream this late or early because I am on the West Coast in the US. I'm based in the Pacific time zone, which is like, it's 4 a.m. here, right? But because we're on sale, I wanted to put in some extra hours, some bonus streams at different times to allow people on Steam and our various platforms to drop in and ask questions, get support. There's a lot of new members in our community right now who just bought Dungeon Alchemist because of the sale, and I want to make sure that they have guidance and answers whenever they need it. I could also see people interested in your players just because of their antics. Like, they might want to know more about them to hire them, or to see if their stories are real. They may not be someone who's interested in them nefariously. It may just be someone who's interested in them because they want to hire them, or any number of things because they've heard of what they've done. But I do like their past creeping up to them randomly. They're running into people who, recognize them from reputation, or recognize them because, they may have a beef with them. Oh my gosh, 3 organizations after them, and they don't even know it yet, Raven? That's insane. How did they not notice people are stalking them or gathering intel on them? Like, do they not put their ear to the ground or pay for, like, intel at, like, a bar or anything? Like, I would definitely be paying the bartender at a place I regular. If anyone's talking about me, let me know. Find out what they're saying or what they want, and then let me know. I'd keep them on retainer. Probably a few kids, too. I think it's funny how players kind of forget about object permanence sometimes. Like, They forget that the world goes on when they're not around. Like, is that weird? Like, because in our real world, that's clearly not the case. Like, they just forget that there are consequences to their actions and that people may... Oh my gosh, I love Recon, but every table I've been on seems to hate it because it slows things down. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you want to go stealthy, check everything out while the rest of the crew holds back? Cool, I guess we'll sit here. You know what I mean? Like, everyone kind of hates it. They just want to run into things. And it's like, oh, I got a familiar because I wanted to send in my familiar, or a homunculus because I wanted to send it into spy. And now I never get to use it because everyone hates taking a few moments to just, like, scout ahead. Oh my gosh, you want to hear one of my biggest beefs? Underutilized feature that, like, seems to be, like, players and DMs seem to hate it, like, for some unknown reason, is short rests. Why are so many tables, players and DMs, averse to short rests? It's not like you have to sit there for 15 minutes. Just say it was a short rest. You know? Like, I had a table I was at once where every time I was like, hey, do you think we just cleared this whole area? Do you think we could barricade in here and do a quick short rest so our players could catch their breath, get a snack, and then, you know, if we have anyone who has short rest recovery options, arcane recovery, whatever, they can get some spells. Almost every time I asked for a short rest, I would inevitably get pushback from players in the group. Why can't we just keep going? Okay, well, that's fine. I just like to make sure I have as much resources to keep going. And we can keep going after this short rest, which will only take 30 seconds of real life time. So, I love RPing short rests as like, oh, that last battle was quite intense, but we got through, you know. Well, let's take a moment to clean up our weapons and, you know, tighten our gear, grab some water and a quick, you know, snack before we move on to the next room. Catch our breath. You know, you don't really have to say it takes an... I think people just feel like, oh, we're going to sit here for 5 minutes, like a real break. It's like a mental block for some reason. Long rest always ends up being like a thing that ends at the end of the camp, like the night. You know, usually a long rest doesn't take place in the middle of your gameplay session. And if it does, it's just, oh, you long rest, you woke up. For some reason, short rest, even though it's definitely a much shorter rest, is argued over. For some reason. It just seems like DMs and players are averse to them. To me, I just think of it as like a... Yeah, the fight took 4 minutes, but it was like, if it took 4 minutes of real time and you were fighting that whole time, you know how winded you would be? Man, 4 minutes of sparring is insane. It's an insane workout. 4 minutes of wrestling, 4 minutes of swinging a sword. Man, I would want to catch my breath for 10 minutes. In full armor, swinging a sword, or whatever, a halberd, casting spells, using up my personal energy pool just to make sure they happen. And no thank you. It's crazy, you know, that like... Well, you watch, like, boxers, right? Wrestlers, UFC fighters. Their rounds are only, like, 3 minutes, and they're exhausted after 3 minutes. And they're some of the most fit people on the planet. Like, they literally exhaust themselves in 3 minutes of heavy exertion in a fight. That is a great example. Table tennis? Huh. Honestly, I could see table tennis getting really exhausting because it's a lot of like amplified small movements, a lot of back and forth. Like regular tennis has a lot of cardio, but table tennis has snap movements like pew, pew, pew. You got to be like really quick and reactionary. You know what I mean? Like far quicker. So I could see like either of them being crazy cardio. Like any sport like that. Oh, for sure. Lots of strategy goes into it as well. It's definitely a strategic game. It's not like using all that brain power is free. You know, it takes a lot of calories. Oh, my. Oh, no. Like a longbow? Okay, there's a reason that, like, in ancient times when they would capture bowmen, that they would, like, cut off their drawstring finger. Okay, because it takes years to become a disciplined bowman that has the strength to draw a longbow. Like, it not only is it insane, like, training regimen, like 10, 20 years to be able to draw and shoot a bow, like, with accuracy, but the strength required and the amount of like change your body undergoes from it. The skeletons of archers from that era, their body is like tweaked and different from like regular people of that era because they essentially change their entire like their body from working out and drawing a string, that it like they're just like contorted and weird and like different looking as skeletons. But that's the reason they could draw a long bow. Like, it takes like what, 150 pounds of draw strength? Yes, this is, I don't know how true that is, per se, Amon, but it comes from lore that, yeah, archers would give the bird to the opposing army to show they still had their finger and that they could pull the drawstring. And that they were still deadly. What kind of archery did you do, Mosey Poe? Was it compound or was it like a regular traditional bow? I did archery like for fun as a kid, nothing competitive. Like in the Scouts I did it, you know? But oh man, even the compound bow was was not easy. A 180-pound draw? That's insane. I bet the range on that was like easily like several hundred yards. Like, oh my gosh. Longbows are something else. They take a lot of practice, even a recurve longbow, you know, still is hard to draw. You know what I mean? Like, insane. How long were you competing? Or did you compete when you were young? I don't know why I got that out of that. Dude, that'd be hard for some linebackers. Like 180 pounds of draw on your fingertips? Okay. Like, I would probably put bank on a rock climber being able to do that before, like, a heavy-duty athlete or weightlifter even. Because they just have the finger strength. This map is cool. Really like it. Dude, bouldering? Nice. Where I grew up, bouldering was like second nature. Like everybody hiked and like climbed and went to those places. So, like, oh my gosh, I did a lot of bouldering growing up. Also, rock climbing and rappelling. Um, so I grew up in southern Utah, like basically right in the middle of several national parks. So I was like a short drive from like Zion or Snow Canyon or Bryce, like all these different national parks. And yeah, it was quite fun. We would basically do a lot of camping and hiking and bouldering and all sorts of stuff. Caving, lots of caving. I am surprised I did not get injured or anything as a young child because I did a lot of really reckless. I remember going caving there's a cave system in southern Utah. You can look it up. It's called the Bloomington Caves. And they actually blew them up and closed them in like the 60s because a couple of kids died there. And then people were so adamant to get back in, hobby, cavers and boulders found ways back in. They found alternate entrances or made alternate entrances. So later on, the park system adopted it back into the parks and they maintain it. It is an insane cave system that is rumored to be so massive that it extends from where it is in southern Utah, from the desert, all the way, allegedly, this is rumor, I don't know how true this is, but they say that it reaches the Pine Valley National Forest, which is like 40, 50 miles away as the crow flies in a straight line. So if that is true, I don't know how far the caves will go in. That would be like Mammoth Cave size, right? Like that's huge. So I don't think it's actually documented or true or they have actually physically found the route. Otherwise that there would be some sort of like information about it. But the cave is pretty big. I remember spending, like my friends and I, we would just go and like, we went out and got tons of like rope and flashlights and stuff for like, going into caves, batteries, and we just go explore them for like hours and hours. We camp overnight and then go deeper. Probably not safe. I remember squeezing into like tiny holes and like almost getting stuck and like trying to get into places, just exploring, trying to find a new passage, a new cavern, a new offshoot. Oh man, we spent too much time there. Yeah, it was quite scary. Some places had drops that were like hundreds of feet. Just pitch black down below. Caving is pretty fun. Also very dangerous. I feel like I don't know. It's like one of the last things that like a man of ordinary means can do to like explore something new and untouched. Like, space explorations, it's for the billionaires, right? Or governments. Sea exploration's pretty much all done up, right? Like all the islands and like, because we got satellites, we know where everything is, right? All the mapping's been done on the surface. So there's the ocean, which, you have to be like James Cameron rich to be able to afford a submarine that can go to the bottom of the ocean. Or, there's like scuba diving and snorkeling and like minor like outlier near the shore areas. Then you always have to worry about like animals, predators in the water. Whereas in a cave, cave is like unexplored region. No one really knows how deep or how it maps unless they've mapped it. And they can go for miles and miles and miles. And I don't know. It just seems fun as a person who, just as like middle America, can grab a bunch of stuff off the shelf at a hardware store or camping store and go explore a cave and find somewhere no one's ever found before. Oh, it's definitely not safe. Oh, we were definitely stupid kids. We were together, luckily, and had each other if there was a problem, but Like, I mean, if you got hurt in those places, it was not easy to get out. Like, the hike down in was like, I remember someone got hurt once, like hurt their ankle going down in, and it took like 7 hours to get them out because they had to like lift them in spots where you had to climb solo and lift and boulder over things that were like 5-6 feet high. So we had to like put a rope around him and tug him out and stuff. It's not easy to get in and out of in some places. But yeah, growing up like right on the edge of a desert, like where there was nothing for hundreds of miles in any direction was kind of interesting. I felt like that little kid in uh, Rescuers Down Under. Like he lived in the outback, like on the edge of the outback in like a little, tiny little home, like, just out in the middle of nowhere. So our suburb was like right at the edge of the desert, and that was it. There was nothing past it. So the kids would like go out on their bikes and build huge ramps or forts, or like it was crazy what was out there. And we would just go riding for miles and miles and get lost out there sometimes. I think one time I remember finding like a rattlesnake that like was on the road, and it was like curled up, and my brother was ahead of me walking, and it was all curled up and like rattling and looking at him. And I had my BB gun, and we were just like hiking this path out in the desert in the middle of nowhere. It was like a 4x4 path, like for wheel, like for like dirt bikes and stuff, whatever, or sand rails, whatever, anything like that, side by sides, four-wheelers. And we're out there hiking, see this huge snake, and it's like about to pounce on my brother. And I had my BB gun. It was a Benjamin Franklin, well, it was actually a pellet gun, a 22 caliber pellet gun. And I just told him to hold still, don't move, don't do anything, no sudden movements, right? Because it's detecting your heat, and it is like irritated at you. And I remember saving my brother's life by shooting a rattlesnake when I was like 10 years old. It's like 12. The desert is not a safe place for kids, but, it was the only thing we had, really. There wasn't a park near us. Just to play paintball in the desert, that was quite fun. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at the time. It's now past 4 a.m. I got a stream in 8 hours. That's the Dam Challenge stream. So I'm going to wrap up this stream for tonight, and then we'll be back in 12 p.m. Pacific. That's 3 p.m. Eastern. I think it's 9 p.m. UTC. What time is it UTC right now? Can anyone fill me in if you happen to know? Is it 12:09 UTC? So your UTC is 8 hours ahead. So it'll be 8 p.m. UTC. I'll be back with the Dam Challenge stream. The Dam Challenge is a showcase of maps from our current map making contest, which the theme is 9x6. I challenge people in our community to make a map that is 9x6 or less, and that's quite small. It's an 8.5 by 11 print. I would challenge them to make a map of that size, and then we'd go from there. I was going to print out the maps, but my color printer was broken, and unfortunately I just don't have it in the budget to buy a new one right now. So we will just be showcasing the maps on stream like normal. But that'll be at 12 p.m., so about 8 hours from now. So I'm going to go get a little bit of rest and eat and whatnot, and we'll be back later with that stream. So everyone have a lovely morning, evening, night, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Thank you for being here for this little bonus stream, random bonus stream. Like I said, This bonus stream is because Dungeon Alchemist is on sale. I just wanted to make myself available to our newer community members, old community members. Be sure I'm here to answer questions, provide guidance. If you see me live anytime, you can drop in. The streams are AMA, which means you can ask me anything Dungeon Alchemist related, and I will do my best to answer your questions and provide support. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Again, my name is Mac, the community manager. See you next time. I give a damn. Back out. Bye. Run a quick commercial and then we'll end.
You stand before the long, dark road to the fabled realm of Goyak-Ta, and before...
What do we see?
I don't know, a goblin.
I kill him!
But before she does, I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to know the goblin's name.
Hi, my name is Woblin.
Where do you live there, Woblin?
I don't think that's relevant.
Well, but I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to seek the goblin's abode.
Clever, find family, kill entire bloodline. I like it.
Seriously, we're doing this?
Okay, well, won't be needing that anymore, will I?
Ever get caught by your players with your pants down? Dungeon Alchemist lets you create wonderful maps for any encounter in seconds.
Oh, Woblin, that's a very impressive cheese collection you've got there.
Yeah, it is quite impressive, yes. But you know what's more impressive? This map I have to the fabled realm of Goyak-Ta. Please take it and leave. Close the door behind you.
Mr. Woblin, I cannot help but notice that you have a secret tunnel underneath your cabinet. Care to explain?
Download Dungeon Alchemist, the AI-powered map maker, on Steam today.
All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Back out. Bye.